Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor, for everything in heaven and on earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. Wealth and honor come from you. You are the ruler of all things. In your hands are strength and power to exalt and give strength to all. These are the words of David in a public prayer recorded in 1 Chronicles 29, verses 11 and 12. And I think they are a great way to kick off today's reflection on the supremacy and sovereignty of God. We've been looking at the attributes of God, and today it's his supremacy and sovereignty that we're going to briefly immerse ourselves in. Let's look at them one at a time. Firstly, the supremacy of God. The supremacy of God can be seen, firstly, I reckon, in the infinite distance that separates him as creator from his creation, us and everything else. He is greater than all other things. But we also see God's supremacy in the way he displays his power. He divided the Red Sea. He brought down the walls of Jericho. He made the sun stand still. He made birds bring food to Elijah. He made iron tools float. He made hungry lions calm. He even made his faithful servants impervious to a fiery furnace. And he also raised the dead. As we're told in Psalm 135 verses 5 and 6, I know that the Lord is great, that our Lord is greater than all gods. The Lord does whatever pleases him, in the heavens and on the earth, in the seas and all their depths. We see his supremacy also in his dealings with people. Think through the Old Testament and how God used the greatest political powers of their time to do his will. Several pharaohs, kings of Persia and Babylon, the list goes on. It still happens today. He even brings dead hearts back to life in his work of salvation. And we can't speak of the supremacy of God without being reminded of the supremacy of God, the Son, Jesus Christ. Check out what Paul says about him in Colossians 1. This is verses 15 to 20. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that in everything he might have the supremacy. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, Jesus, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. That's the supremacy of God. And secondly, the sovereignty of God. God's sovereignty is his supremacy in action, I suppose. It's where he exerts his control and rule over all of creation and all of time. He has no advisors, no speechwriters, no counselors. His will can't be manipulated. His mind can't be changed. Isaiah 46 verses 9 and 10. Remember this, Isaiah says, keep it in mind. Take it to heart, you rebels. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. Powerful. He's God, and he is God alone. He does what he wants, and nothing gets in the way. And this is a hard pill to swallow. And it's where I want to end today. Our last few devotions have had us thinking through predestination and foreknowledge and other such issues. And God's sovereignty definitely comes into play here. God is God, right? He does what he wants. God is also bigger and smarter than all of us. And to be honest, I struggle with where to land on this whole predestination thing. Calvinists think I'm an Arminian. Arminians think I'm a Calvinist. I've been one or the other or even both at different stages of my life. But I just really try to hold these two things in tension. God is God. He does what he wants. And at the same time, God is so far beyond us that we can never be sure we've got his ways figured out. But this actually leads to a great hope. That however God operates, whatever he does with our eternal destiny and the destiny of our world, we can be sure that it's all in the hands of someone who knows all, who can do all, and will be a much better manager of it all than we would be. And when we couple his supremacy and sovereignty with our knowledge of his goodness, we can trust that all he does is good and just and right. We can trust. I want to finish with Colossians 1 again. In verses 19 and 20, we see the way God wields his supremacy and sovereignty. Have a listen. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, Jesus, and through him, Jesus, to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. God is supreme. God is sovereign. And how does he show that supremacy and sovereignty? He became man and shed his blood on the cross so that we could be reconciled to him. That's a supreme leader I can trust. Trust. I think that's the lesson for today. God is supreme. God is sovereign. And he calls us to trust. What do you need to entrust to our sovereign God today?